Before he became famous, before the movies, the music, the smile, there was a boy who was afraid to go home. This is not just a success story. This is a survival story. And today, you will hear part 1. This is the story of a boy who later became a world star. But first he lived in fear. His name is Willard Carroll Smith, Jr. He was born on September 25th, 1968, in Chicago, Illinois. Not in Hollywood, not on a stage, but in a small apartment with loud walls and quiet pain. Most people know him as Will Smith, the funny man, the movie star, the hero. But as a child, he was none of those things. Will grew up in a normal neighborhood, not rich, not poor. His father was a strict man. He believed in control, rules, and fear. His mother was kind and smart, but often silent. From the outside, the family looked fine. But inside the house, everything felt tense. Will later said, "My home was not safe. It was quiet, but scary." When Will was 9 years old, something happened that changed his life forever. One night, he saw his father hurt his mother. She fell. The room went silent. Will stood there, small, frozen, helpless. That moment stayed inside him. From that day, Will made a promise to himself. I will make people smile, so I never feel this fear again. That was the beginning, not of fame, but of performance. At home, Will became the funny one. If his father was angry, Will made jokes. If his mother was sad, Will danced. If the room felt heavy, Will became loud. He learned something very young. If people laugh, they don't fight. But this skill had a price. Will never talked about his fear. He never cried in front of others. He never showed his real feelings. He smiled, even when he was breaking inside. At school, Will loved music, especially hip-hop. But he was different. Other kids rapped about anger and violence. Will rapped about school, jokes, and fun. He didn't use bad words. He wanted his grandmother to be proud. Some people laughed at him. They said, "You are not real." Will didn't care. He wasn't trying to be tough. He was trying to feel safe. At 16, Will met a DJ named Jeff. They practiced in small rooms, cheap studios, long nights. Together they became DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Slowly the world started to listen. By 20 years old, Will won a Grammy Award, from fear in a small apartment to music's biggest stage. But the story was not over, because success came fast, and mistakes came faster, and soon. Everything fell apart. Everything was gone. His house, gone. His cars, sold. His money, finished. His name, forgotten. Will was no longer a star. He was sleeping at his girlfriend's place. The curtains were closed. The phone was silent. Will thought, this is the end. He believed his career was dead. No music, no fame, no future. Then one day a friend said something simple. They are casting for a TV show. It's called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will laughed. "I'm not an actor," he said. His friend smiled and answered, "You weren't a rapper once either." Will had nothing to lose, so he went. No big hopes, no big plan. He walked into the audition room, he talked, he joked, he was himself. And just like that, he got the role. That moment changed everything. In 1990, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air started on TV. Millions of people watched. They laughed. They danced to the song. They loved Will. But they didn't see the truth. Behind every joke was fear. Behind every smile was pain. Will felt one thing all the time. If I stop being funny, they will leave me. There is one famous episode in the show. Will's father comes back and then leaves again. Will looks at Uncle Phil and says, "Why doesn't he want me?" That scene was not acting. Will broke down for real. The tears were real. The pain was real. For the first time, the mask fell. The scared boy finally spoke. After the show, Will was famous again. But this time, he wanted more. He didn't say it as a dream. He said it like a rule. I will be the biggest movie star in the world. He studied everything: movies, money, audience reactions. He worked like a machine. And the movies came. Bad Boys, action and humor. Independence Day, the whole world watched. Men in Black, style and fun. Then something changed. In Ali, he showed pain. In I Am Legend, loneliness. In The Pursuit of Happiness, real struggle. In that movie, he played a homeless father, a man trying to protect his son. People cried because Will wasn't acting. He was that man, trying to be good enough, trying to feel safe. One line touched everyone. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do something. That line was not for the movie. It was for the boy inside him. Soon, Will had everything: money, fame, power. But peace? No. His father was still a shadow in his heart. Strong, cold, unforgiving. Will said later, I never forgave him. Years passed. Then his father got sick. Cancer. Doctors said 6 weeks. Will stayed. He fed him. He listened. He held his hand. And something broke. In a good way. Will looked at the man who scared him for years and said, I forgive you. In that moment, the fear lost its power. At home, Will had a family, a wife, children. But life was not perfect. Arguments, distance, pressure. Will tried to fix everything, but forgot himself. He wrote later, I was strong for everyone, but empty inside. In 2022, Will went to the Oscars. He was nominated. Then a joke was made about his wife. At first, Will laughed. Then something old woke up. Fear, anger, pain. He walked onto the stage and made a mistake the whole world saw. That moment was not about a joke. It was about years of silence. The world asked, who is Will Smith? A hero? A failure? A bad man? Or maybe just a human being? The slap went around the world in seconds. People were silent. People were shocked. This was Will Smith, the smiling hero, the safe man, the one parents trusted. Now the smile was gone. A few minutes later, he stood on stage again. He held an Oscar in his hands. Best Actor, King Richard. People clapped, but inside, Will felt empty. He cried and said, love makes you do strange things. But when the lights went off, there was no joy. That night, Will did not sleep. He sat alone. No phone, no music, only questions. Who am I really? Why did I lose control? What am I hiding from? Later, Will said something important. The slap was not about that moment. It came from years of silence. He was not angry at the joke. He was angry at himself, at the fear, at the pain, at the man he pretended to be. He said, I was protecting an image, but that image was fake. The next day, Will spoke to the world. Not with anger, not with excuses, with truth. I was wrong. I am ashamed. This is not the man I want to be. He apologized to everyone, to Chris Rock, to the audience, to his family. Then, he disappeared. No cameras, no movies, no smiles for the public, only silence. At home, Will finally stopped running. He sat with his emotions, the ones he buried for 40 years. For the first time, he did not try to be funny. He did not try to be strong. He just felt. Will later said, the hardest thing in my life was forgiving myself. He learned something new. Love is not performance. Love is not perfection. Love is honesty. He started to meditate. He read books. He wrote in silence. He cried. And slowly, he began to heal. Will understood one big truth. My whole life was a show. The smile, the charm, the success, all to be loved, because deep inside, he did not love himself. This was not a fame problem, This was a soul problem. Will showed the world something rare. You can be rich and feel empty. You can be famous and feel invisible. You can be loved and still feel broken. And you can make a huge mistake and still choose to grow. But healing is not done alone. To forgive yourself, you need someone who sees your worst side and stays. For Will, that person was Jada, his wife, his mirror. Their relationship was never perfect. It was honest and painful. Will met Jada in the 1990s. At that time, he was married to his first wife, Cherie. They had a son named Trey. But life changed fast. After the divorce, Will and Jada came together quickly. The world saw magic. 2 stars, 2 strong voices, 1 powerful couple. But behind closed doors, the story was just beginning. Strong, rich, famous, Will and Jada got married. From the outside, they looked perfect. 2 stars, 1 family. Soon they had 2 children, Jaden and Willow. But very early something felt wrong. Will wanted safety, rules, a classic family. Jada wanted space, freedom, to be herself. They loved each other, but they spoke different languages of love. Will believed love means giving everything. Jada believed love means being honest. For Jada's 40th birthday, Will planned something huge. He worked on it for 3 years. There were cameras, famous guests, a special film. Will wanted it to be perfect. But when the day ended, Jada was quiet. Later she told him, "This was not for me. It was for you." That sentence broke something inside Will. He gave his heart, but she felt trapped. That night, their marriage changed. Will later said, "That was the day I stopped trying to please everyone." They did not divorce. They did not scream. They stayed, but they drifted. For a long time, they were not close, not romantic, sometimes not even talking. They lived in the same house, but different worlds. They gave each other space, time, distance. Then, in 2020, the truth came out. On her show, Red Table Talk, Jada spoke openly. Will sat across from her. She said that during their break, she had a relationship with another man. The world reacted fast. Jokes, anger, cruel words. Will sat still, eyes full, heart heavy. He did not shout. He did not walk away. He listened. When it ended, he said softly, "We are still here." It sounded like a joke, but it was also pain. Later, Will said, "Our marriage was a performance." They were both acting, trying to be strong, trying to survive. Will thought love meant sacrifice. Jada thought love meant truth. They were building one life, with 2 different plans. That's why it kept breaking. After the Oscar moment, many people said, "He did it for Jada." Will answered clearly, "No, that was my choice." She didn't push him. She didn't stop him. That pain belonged to him. He said, "I held everything inside for too long. When it came out wrong. After everything, the fame, the family, the fall, they chose something simple, truth. No more masks, no more pretending." Jada said, "We are partners, not prisoners." Will said, "I am learning to love without control. They are not perfect. They are not finished. But now, they are real. They are still trying to heal, trying to understand, trying to be human, together." Will Smith stopped chasing noise. No more trophies, no more records, no more applause. After the slap, after the shame, after the storms in his marriage, Will found something new. Silence. And that silence was stronger than Hollywood. He stopped running. No interviews, no cameras, no performance. He sat. He breathed. He listened. For the first time in his life, he listened to himself. Will understood something simple, but painful. "I thought success was love. But love is not earned. Love is received when you tell the truth." For years, he performed for the world. Now he was learning how to show up for himself. He traveled, not for movies, not for fame, for peace. He went to quiet places, far from lights, far from noise. He read books that made him uncomfortable. He spoke with monks, teachers, and elders, not to talk, but to feel. He wrote every day, sometimes many pages, sometimes one word. Enough. When Will spoke again in public, his voice was different, slower, calmer, honest. He wasn't trying to be funny. He wasn't trying to be strong. He was trying to heal, out loud. He said, "Hurting someone in front of the world forces you to face yourself. Maybe I needed that moment, because the old me was already breaking." Will began to look at his children, Trey, Jaden, and Willow, differently. He asked himself, am I the father they need, or the father I imagined? He stopped pushing. He started listening. One day Willow said, "Dad, I don't need you to fix my life. I just need you to see me." That sentence changed him. He realized something important. Being strong is not control. Being strong is presence. Slowly Will returned to acting. But he was not the same man. He didn't want fame. He wanted meaning. He chose stories with truth, characters with pain, roles that heal. Acting was no longer a mask. It became a mirror. Will said, "I don't want to be the greatest actor. I want to be the most loving human I can be." The world first saw him as perfect. Then they saw him fall. Now they see him becoming real. He is still learning, still apologizing, still growing. And that is his strength now. Not a big smile, not loud confidence, not being a hero, just a man, choosing honesty. One quiet night, alone, Will opened his journal. No cameras, no fans. He wrote one question. If I died tomorrow, who was I really? The answer surprised him. Not a movie star, not a legend. This. I was a scared boy who became a strong man. And then he wrote one more line. But I had to lose everything first. All his life, he chased love he never gave himself. The jokes, the charm, the success. It was all for that 9-year-old boy who promised to smile so no one would feel fear again. But now, he doesn't smile to protect. He smiles to reflect. He became light. Not because life got easier, but because he stopped running from the dark. Will once believed success was noise. Big fame, big numbers, big stages. Now he knows success is quiet and peace. Finally, feels like home. Today, Will Smith believes in a different kind of success. Not fame, not money, not applause. Success is peace. It is the ability to sleep at night without regret, to laugh without acting, to love without trying to be perfect. Will spent many years chasing love, trying to earn it, trying to deserve it. Now he knows the truth. The people who love you love who you are, not who you pretend to be. Not when you are perfect, not when you are famous, but when you open your heart. For most of his life, Will ran from pain. He tried to hide it. He tried to cover it with success. Now he understands something important. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the teacher. Pain opens the door. Pain shapes the soul. Pain turns a boy into a man. Will no longer wants to be a legend. He wants to be free. Free to speak. Free to feel. Free to love. Free to cry. Free to make mistakes. Free to be real. Once, he touched the world by performing. Now he touches the world by telling the truth. And this is what his story teaches us. 1. You are not your past. Even if you were broken, even if you failed, your story is not finished. 2. You don't need to impress the world. You only need to respect the person in the mirror. 3. Your deepest wound can become your strength, but only if you stop hiding it. 4. There is no perfect life. There is only an honest one. 5. You can fall, loudly and publicly, and still rise again, this time as your true self. Will made us laugh, he made us cry, he made us dream, but his greatest gift was this. He showed us what happens when the mask finally comes off, not just from the face, but from the heart. This is the end of Will Smith's story, and maybe it is the beginning of yours. A life without performance, a life with truth, a life with peace. Thank you for listening to this emotional and powerful journey, from fear to fame, from perfection to honesty. If this story touched you, you already know what to do. Live your story, not the perfect one, the real one. The world needs that story. Subscribe to this channel for real lives, real emotions, and real lessons. Not just to learn English, but to grow for life.